Hello everyone and welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms video. This is Dragothien here, and today we're going to be going over some more early starting tips and tricks. This video particularly is going to be the top 5 epic commanders that you need to work on when you're first starting your account in a new kingdom. Whether you're an experienced player starting over in a new kingdom like I am, or if you are a new player to the game, you just want to know who you should be focusing on with all these different commanders to choose from. I'm going to give you the top 5 epic, that's the purple versions of these commanders, and then we're also going to do a video on the top 5 legendaries as well in case you do have some money to put into the game as well. Again, before I jump over to the next screen, this is a sponsored content creation channel for Rise of Kingdoms. Please hit the sub button, please hit the like button, please hit the bell notification, all those good things so you can get that content every single day that I'm putting out for you guys. So without further ado, let's jump over to the next screen. Okay, so we're looking at, I've kind of scrolled down to the rarity version of my commander screen so I can show you just the epics except for Mop Guy Ishida here. This is going to be for PvP. So again, this is a PvP game. This PvP being player versus player. This is combat. This is fighting other players in the game, whether it be in KVK or especially in earlier kingdoms. There's going to be some version of fighting. It's bound to happen, okay? So I want you guys to know what you should be going after from a epic commander variety, the top 5 that you should be focusing on. Now, there's going to be some that you're going to want to have as primary, and then there's some that you're going to want to focus on as secondary, and I'm going to go over those things with you. But these are going to be the top 5 commanders that you want to go after, and really this is almost a little bit of an epic commander ranker when it comes to just the game in general as far as how effective they are for what you're trying to do. And in this particular case, that is fighting. So without further ado, I think we all know, or at least those of you that are not brand new to the game, you all know the best epic commander in the game, and especially in my opinion, is going to be Sun Tzu. That's why I've already maxed him out. He was the first commander I maxed. He's the first epic commander that I 6-starred, and I'm working on getting him to level 60. Now, why do we do that? Well, first off, Sun Tzu is an amazing commander. He's kind of like a light legendary commander. He has a lot of great things going for him. His AoE damage is very, very strong. He's got 5 targets on that AoE. He's also got some great damage reduction, and this is universal, so this can be used with any commander. This Sun Tzu is very versatile. You can use him as primary or secondary. Preferably early game, you're going to want to use him as one of your main infantry commanders on the battlefield because he does so well with so many things. So he has damage taken reduction and infantry health, which we all know is a very good thing. And then his 4th skill is a damage bonus to skill damage. Now it says active skill damage here, but it just says skill damage here. This does affect all skill damage types. So passive, active, additional, it doesn't matter. This is all affected by Sun Tzu's 4th skill. And then again, the expertise just augments the primary skill that he's got. So Sun Tzu is an amazing commander that he does a great job on the battlefield. He's the best one from an epic standpoint. He is my number 1 every single time. He's the only reason, really more than anything else, that I start with China at the very beginning, so I can get just that many more Sun Tzu sculptures at the beginning of the games, because this commander will give you an advantage. The quicker you can get him maxed out and leveled up, the quicker you'll have an advantage on the battlefield. Now, you can use him as primary and have any AoE or secondary, or any tanky commander secondary, like a Scipio or a Charles if you have him unlocked. Get that 1st skill of Charles maxed out in that case. But you can also use Sun Tzu as a secondary. You can have Babar's primary with Sun Tzu secondary if you want to go full Cav. You can have Kusunoki primary with Sun Tzu secondary and go full Archer. That's why he's so good. He's so versatile. So number 1 is Sun Tzu. Number 2, and this might be a little different for you guys. There's really a 2A and 2B for me, but I'm going to go number 2. And again, early game is all about maxing your damage, okay? And what better way to do that than somebody who just pours out skill damage? And that's Osman. Osman the First. He has a really good, solid first nuke. His 2nd skill is more about city hitting, which you're not going to do too much of at the very beginning, although you will probably do a little bit. But this doesn't really help with that so much. You're not really going to be doing the 2nd skill, but the 3rd skill. After an active skill is used, both skills deals additional damage of 400. So really, this is a 1250 damage nuke for his primary nuke, which is the highest of any single target epic in the game. And then you add an additional 400 skill damage to, say, if you had Sun Tzu primary, Osman secondary, he already has 1,000 damage on his nuke here with the 800 and plus the 200 for the additional damage. Then you're adding another 400. So now it's a 1,600, which makes Sun Tzu even better. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Osman is going to be my number 2. And then his 4th skill is just as good, increasing troop capacity by 10%. That means you can bring more troops to the battlefield than your opponent. And in the early game, that is everything. That's why Julius Barca, for people who are really investing into the game very early, that's why they're so powerful. It's not necessarily because the commanders are so amazing. They're good. They're not great, though. But the reason they're so good is because both of their troop capacity bonuses stack and all the other benefits from the defense and the debuffs and things like that. That's why they're so good early game versus your generic armies that are out there on the battlefield. So this gives you a little flavor of that with whatever commander you want to pair Osman up with. Osman is a great secondary. You don't necessarily want to use him as a primary. He's great as a secondary to any skill damage commander that you've got, whether it be Baybars, Sun Tzu, and especially with anybody that has additional skill damage factor as well, because you can use the latent power talent for both commanders, which is dual beneficial. So that's very good. Or again, you can go ahead and pair him up with a tanky first, like a Scipio, and do mixed troops with Scipio Osman. Again, this is early game, guys. This is not late game. Osman is usable late game. Sun Tzu is definitely usable late game, but Osman is usable late game as a secondary only, whereas early, you can do primary or secondary, but I do still prefer him to be secondary. So Osman's my number 2. Now, again, this is PvP, and I'm still going to select this next commander for number 3. The next commander, the 3rd ranked commander in my opinion for Epic, is going to be Joan of Arc. Now again, hear me out. So most of the time when you hear Joan, it's going to be either open field buffer or gatherer. And she does both of those things really well. She has an amazing AoE alliance-friendly buff that grants rage and gives all these different buffs to all the allies around them. And there's no target limit. So it's just as long as you're in her circle, you all get this benefit. Also, again, one of the best gathering speed bonuses and load bonuses in the game in one skill for Joan of Arc as well. She also does have a heal for her army, which is always nice, a little bit of 10% chance deal. And then normal attack damage, which is very good, 25% damage. That's awesome. And again, the expertise extending the duration of this and giving a little bit more rage per second. This is a very versatile commander early game. And that's what I'm saying. Like, early game, you want to be picking out commanders that are versatile, strong, and can do a lot of things for you across the board. Joan of Arc does that in spades. She's great in the open field. She's great in Canyon and still used today in high-end, top-level Canyon play. And she's a great gatherer. I mean, you can't complain when you have a commander that does all those things at once. She's not going to pump out a bunch of damage, but she's going to help everybody else around her do that. And when you're not fighting, you can use her as a top-line, top-flight gatherer. So she is my number 3. So far we got Sun Tzu number 1, Osman number 2, and Joan of Arc number 3. Now, we have a few other epics to choose from, and I'm going to pick this next commander just based off of ease of getting usable on the battlefield and strength of play. So my next one is Baybars, and it's kind of interesting because he's a conquering commander, so he's meant for technically rallying cities and rallying structures. But the AoE is very strong. It's 3 targets, which extends to 5 when he's expertised. So that's eventually when you expertise him, and the damage goes up to 1,000 per target, flat. There's no additional skill damage. It's just bam, 1,000 damage factor on the target. The second skill is very, very good to have as well. Arabian Nights. Really, you can get Baybars to 5/5, 1/1, and have him about 90% effective on the battlefield, because the third skill is when attacking cities, and again, you're not really going to be attacking cities that often early game. And then the fourth one is after you've left the battle, you get a little slight heal here, and then you get some march speed bonus. So not great, not bad, but not necessary for you to fight in the open field. 5/5, 1/1. This commander is basically usable the way he is. Now, once you expertise him, he gets that extra 10% effectiveness with the extra damage and the extra 2 targets that he hits with his AoE if they're in that fan. But again, 5511 is going to give you everything you need. He's very easy to get to that point, 5511. And I just got unlucky with the way I unlocked him because I wanted to keep leveling him up because he's going to be a primary for me in Canyon and an open field for quite some time on this account. So I wanted to forego the possibility of maxing my second skill here versus wasting XP going into the commander. This was one of the decisions I had to make. But again, Babar's number 4. He's a great primary or secondary. Again, just like Sun Tzu, right? You can have Babar's primary, Sun Tzu secondary with Cav, or you can have Sun Tzu primary, Babar's secondary with infantry. And it's the same kind of idea. Pumping out a ton of AoE skill damage and having some mobility if you want to go Babar's primary, or a little extra tankiness if you want to go Sun Tzu primary. This is called the shotgun group, by the way. For those of you that might hear that terminology somewhere in Discords or chats or things, this is a shotgun army. So it's just pumping out tons of AoE damage like a shotgun. So that's the idea. Now the 5th one, okay? And again, this is for PvP. This is not for what's the best, overall epic commander, right? For PvP, and this may go against everything that I've kind of preached about. Scipio. Scipio is my number 5. Now hear me out on this one. Early game. Scipio is one of the better commanders to have for fighting. He has an amazing counterattack damage bonus of 25% and 25% reduction for 5 seconds. That's huge. On the battlefield, you're getting swarmed a lot. If you see a Scipio on the battlefield early game and you're fighting with T3 or mixed troops and things like that, you don't want to target a Scipio-led army or a Scipio army in general because of this first skill. It's a very, very solid skill. And his second skill gives 100% attack bonus for the next turn every 5 seconds, basically, or every, usually it kind of procs 2 times every 10 seconds or so. And then also another heal. He does heal once he's below 40% troop capacity, and he does have a troop capacity bonus, just like Osman, and we talked about the benefits of having that too. So, and then his expertise does buff that active skill as well, giving even more, the second skill, giving even more chance to heal and a higher chance to do that 100% damage for 2 seconds instead of just 1 second. So this is a very, very good early game commander. Now, Scipio tends to tail off towards the mid game. And really, when I say mid game, I'd say after KVK 1 is really when he starts to tail off, because you start to see a lot of Richard Charleses out there. And really, even more so, you start to see armies that are single troop type armies. And those are the armies that can kind of start beating Scipio. But if you got a mixed troop army that doesn't have a Scipio versus a mixed troop army that does, more often than not, Scipio has the advantage having that mixed troop because of the leadership talent tree that he has and the attack talent tree that he has. And again, I'll be using Scipio as a secondary, pairing him up with Sun Tzu possibly, pairing him up with Charles, which I do have him starting to level up as well. Scipio is basically a light version of Julius, and he is a pretty solid epic legendary commander as well. So I definitely would not suggest not having that. Some other honorable mentions, Kusunoki and Herman are both really good, but archers early game are very, very weak because of the prevalence of so much cavalry out there. So even though these commanders probably from a PvP standpoint are a little stronger than some of the suggestions I've made, the troop type they carry is not as effective on the battlefield because of the prevalence of Cav. You have so many Minas out there. You have so many Babars and Pelagius, and even Belisarius is out there. There's just so many of those out there. Archers just don't do very well. If you take a look at my troop count on my new account, it's 45% infantry, 50% Cav, and then 5% archers as far as troops, like total troops, because I'm not going to use them for a little while. There's no reason for me to pump those troop types. So let me recap really quick again. Number 1 is going to be my Sun Tzu here. This is my boy. This is going to be the guy that's going to be doing a lot of the legwork from an epic standpoint on the battlefield for you. Number 2 is Osman. He is definitely one of the better secondary commanders in the game. Even up to late game, he is used as a substitute for Freddy until you get Freddy maxed. Number 3 is Joan of Arc. She's one of the most versatile commanders in the game and is usable endgame in late stage canyon play, as well as open field combat in general in KVK. She's definitely an amazing PvP commander, and she does the added benefit of having one of the best gathering setups in the game as well. Number 4 is Baybars. Great AoE, great attack damage for Cav, and again, very easy to get to the point where you can use him from a skill standpoint, and then all you got to worry about is leveling him up. And then finally, again, Scipio. Scipio is one of those other universal commanders where you can add him in and add a really solid benefit from his active skill and add the troop capacity bonus just like Osman does to bring more effectiveness onto the battlefield. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope it's been helpful for you, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers, have a good one. Take care.